G'day you cheeky dogs, my name's Margie and I'm an Aussie currently living in America. Today's video is going to be a breakdown of Bluey Season 3 episode Mini Bluey and all the updated Easter eggs and references and just hidden little details that maybe you might have missed when you watched it. If you're new to my channel, hi, hello, I love to do Bluey content and eventually other animated content and Australian content as well. But if you love all that stuff, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below as well as that bell for notifications so you know whenever I release another video. With that being said, let's just get straight into it with our traditional Easter eggs first, our long dogs and our tennis balls. Now we have 3 tennis balls in this episode, one under the bed, we also have another one on the newspaper and one on the painting in the background, and we also have one long dog which is a little yellow one that we can see here. Our next massive Easter egg is of course the toys. There are always so many Easter egg and references with each of the toys that they use in the episodes, whether they're callbacks to previous episodes, but also just references to other animation out there as well. It's so cool to try and figure out what each one is, so I'm going to show you all the ones that I found. Starting off with the green mushroom, which is of course from Vine Source, which are 2 famous Twitch streamers, Vinny and Joel, who've also been background characters in Bluey before as well. We see the heart headband, which we've seen in Horsey Wedding. You can see Bluey throwing away the hat that Chillis actually wore in the episode Bus, as well as the rattle, which we saw in the episode The Show. We see our hippos, which are obviously a reference to Hungry Hungry Hippos, as well as we're in the episode The Doctor. We see Grey Dancer the dolphin that we've seen in the episode Claw. We see the sunnies that they wear when the girls are grannies. We see the queen crown from the episode Queens, as well as the horns from the episode Bad Mood. We can see a blue hedgehog, which is a reference to Sonic, a sunflower, which I think is a reference to Plants vs. Zombies, or perhaps from Louie from Undertale. We can see our sticky gecko from the episode Sticky Gecko, as well as a blue tongue lizard, which is a very iconic Australian animal, as is the crocodile too. We can also see the teapot set in the background, which is a reference to Beauty and the Beast. We can see the penguins, which is a reference to Madagascar, and we're also seen in the episode Neighbours. We also see a fox on the ground there, which I think is a reference to Swiper from Dora the Explorer. We can also see a yellow bear, which I definitely think is a reference to the Five Nights at Freddy's Fredbear, because they have the same bow tie. But were there any other toys that maybe you noticed that you think also could be references to something else? Let me know in the comment section down below. The next thing though I want to point out to you guys is all the amazing Australian references that were in this episode, because wow, there was also a lot of them too. We have food references with the dog version of Vegemite that we can see in the pantry, as well as Nutri-Grain. Both of these are very iconic Australian breakfasts that I grew up having all the time, so I love seeing that they added those in as well. Speaking of brekkie, we also see the cheese and jam, which I realized is not actually a regular breakfast item here in America. It is a very Australian thing. I grew up having it all the time, as did my dad. It's very much sort of like that sharp cheddar with strawberry jam on toast. So good, but also a very Aussie style breakfast. We also hear the girls talking about wombats. Of course, wombats are a very Australian animal, and they're big and round and super heavy, but I can see why they'd kind of want to hold one like a cuddle. The other kind of difference between Australia and maybe other countries' wording is, of course, sticky tape. We say sticky tape, but other countries say sellotape or scotch tape. And then we have the very obvious reference to Australia of when Bingo is holding the world globe, Australia is highlighted in green compared to all the other countries. So a bit of a shout out to, of course, Australia. The next 2 really cool Easter eggs are references to pop culture animation. We have one reference to SpongeBob, which is the big pink loser where Patrick acts exactly like SpongeBob and starts to dress like him and basically turn into him, which of course is an absolute reference to this whole episode, basically the girls switching and becoming each other. The second reference as well is a South Park reference where they switch the words cereal for serious. Bluey does this all the way through the episode, and I absolutely think that's a bit of a shout out to the iconic line as well from South Park. Our next little sort of hidden details that maybe you might have missed was all the stuff in the newspaper that Bandit was holding. Not only do we see a tennis player on the back there with, of course, a tennis ball, one of our Easter eggs, but in case you didn't know, tennis is an incredibly popular sport in Australia. It's one of our sort of top 3 sports that people like to go and watch. But also, as Bandit opens up the newspaper, you can see a koala in there as well, and sort of like an environmental page. You see some dogs in space, which, you know, perhaps is a reference to the episode Flat Pack, where they talked about them as dogs going into space, and we see the footprints on the moon. Very interesting, I think. I also love, though, that you can see the actual cost of a Jeep, so we can sort of add that into our theory about whether or not Louie's mum and dad are actual criminals and have to like create extra income from somewhere because they have a Jeep. I made a whole theory video about that. It was a lot of fun to do that deep dive. So if you haven't seen it, go and check it out. After this video though, of course. Now we do also have a few like kind of meta references of the show talking to us as an audience as well. So for anyone who has been on the Bluey Reddit page, there's always like these polls of like, who's your favorite character? And all the time, Bluey is just poor thing goes under the bus basically. Like Bingo always beats her every single time. And so I feel like maybe this episode is also a bit of a reference to that, with the parents saying like, oh, you know, like we want double bingos. How good would it be having 2 bingos? I feel like that's a bit of a shout out to the whole Reddit community. And yes, I know some people from Ludo Studios is on that Reddit thread. So yeah, maybe the fact that we're always saying that bingo is better than Bluey, maybe that was a bit of a joke to us as the audience as well. There's also the nature versus nurture kind of reference of how can the same people who grew up in the same house, under the same parents, all that sort of thing turn out so different, which is always this common like argument of like, is it nature or is it nurture as to why we are similar or different?
Future Margie here with, yes, a husky voice going on. But we should, of course, mention the fact that the Disney Plus version is different than the Australia version. There is one scene that was cut out involving the word crazy. We have seen this happen before, also in Mr. Monkey Jocks. But this is the Australian version.
You look crazy. Follow me.
And this is the American version.
Here you go.
There's also a second small change that Disney did actually change after it was released. Some of you might have picked up on it. When they first released it, they have like the little captions on Disney Plus for each episode. And for Mini Bluey, they referred to Bluey as him. They did, however, eventually change this. About 3 days later, they finally edited it and put it her in instead. Now, speaking of Bluey versus Bingo, we do find out a lot more about the girls' personalities this season. And this episode is no different. We found out a lot more about what they like and what they dislike as well. Bingo, for example, is obviously obsessed with rainbows. Everything from her bed sheets to even her headphones are rainbow. But we also find out that she loves wheelbarrows and she loves peanut butter and bananas on toast. Bluey, however, not a fan. She likes her cheese and jam on toast. She hates wheelbarrows. She hates doing chores. And she especially hates glass clippings. But she does love to dance and she loves to sing. Now, we do also have a little bit of continuity going on with season 3 from episode to episode, which is quite interesting to see because we didn't really have that in season 1 and 2. But season 3 has really done a bit of an effort to sort of show us as if we're almost going along an accurate timeline. And this episode quite obviously takes place after the episode promises because we see them collecting their library books that they got out from the episode promises. Most specifically, the book Schmurtle, the Dirty Turtle, which is the one that Bluey got out and we see throughout this episode as well. There's also maybe a few little extra background details that maybe you might have missed if you haven't seen any of my breakdowns before. Those are, of course, the bone decor on the windows, as well as we have bone decor on the pantry. We also see an old school phone that's plugged into the wall, which for me is fascinating because I don't know anyone who owns one of those phones anymore. But it's not surprising because we've seen Chilli and Bandit use old school tech before, like the iPhone speaker in the episode Barbecues that really I don't think you could buy anymore. A few other little continuity jokes is, of course, the girls calling their dad Big Fella, which is a joke sort of throughout season 3 about Bandit and his weight and his size, which is interesting. And we have a picture of Bingo with Bob Bilby in the background too, which obviously is coming after the episode from Bob Bilby. Some extra little Bluey specific details is that this is the first episode to have Bluey's actual name in the title card. We have had Calypso before and Bingo before, but never Bluey. So it's nice to see that she finally gets a shout out in the title card. Now, overall, this episode, I feel, has split people pretty 50-50. A lot of people really love it. They think it's a really funny and hilarious episode, especially with Bingo doing like the absolutely crazy mouth part at the end to prove that she is annoying. However, we've seen Bingo be kind of annoying before, like in the episode movies where she just wouldn't sit still because she's a young kid. She had to move around, so she was being annoying. So it's not the first time that we haven't seen that. And so it kind of almost rubbed me a little bit the wrong way. I loved this episode up until that one point in the kitchen where Bandit said, "How good is double bingos?" Bluey got really upset and ran off, and he didn't follow her. And that frustrates me, because what parent wouldn't follow their child in that situation when they're obviously really upset, they need comforting, but instead it's just Bingo who goes and comforts her. Which again kind of reminds me a little bit of the episode The Show where Bingo was upset and Chilli didn't go and comfort her when the balloon popped. But either way, I feel like Bandit should have gone and looked after her rather than making the comment to Chilli about like, yeah, how good would it be? And Chilli saying, yeah, I know, and agreeing with him. That just, it seems so out of place, especially after the episode Kids, where he talks very specifically about not having favorites and how it's not good to show any favoritism. So I don't know, just that one little line just kind of threw the episode for me a little bit. Just didn't make it seem so real. And yeah, some people might want to say, well, parents do have favorites, and sometimes they do feel that way. And yeah, I get that, but I don't know how I feel about it being portrayed in Bluey when it's usually such a very positive environment about parenting. So if I was to take out that one scene, for me, this would have been maybe a 5 out of 5 episode because it was super fun and it was so cool to see the difference in animation between making them both Bingo and making them both Bluey. but because of that one scene, I would have to bring my rating down to maybe like a 3.75 out of 5. But let me know, what would you guys give this out of 5 long dogs? Let me know in the comment section down below. I would love to know how you felt about this scene as well, and how you felt about the whole episode too. But if you liked my breakdown, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up down below, as well as subscribe and hit that bell for notifications if you haven't already, because I want you guys to know whenever I'm releasing any other videos. But if you'd like to see some other videos, I have picked a few out for you here that maybe you would like to watch, and I will see you cheeky dogs in another video. Mwah! Bye!